Happy Saturday. So today I'm excited on this dreary day to be trying a new cheese because we all have something to look forward to when the days become short and it's dreary outside. It always has affected me. So having a project and something to look forward to is a bonus. So I have never even eaten this cheese before, so I might have to buy some store-bought just to see what it tastes like before I taste my own. I don't know, maybe not. But it's called Butterkase, but it's German cheese, so it's actually pronounced like Butterkase or something like that. I watched a YouTube video that repeated it over and over and I was trying to figure it out. But anyway, so I'm gonna make it because it's supposed to be a mild cheese that ages quickly. And it's another washed curd cheese like Gouda and some others. And I'll try to show you what that looks like. I am absolutely in cheese school myself. I'm not an expert, but I'm kind of gathering what I've learned from cheese making books and other videos. And if I do something that I've learned specifically from someone, I'll try to make sure I give them credit. But anyway, this is something else that's new. I set up a side of my kitchen away from where I do any baking or yeast. Because I was having a lot of yeast contaminated cheeses from all the sourdough that I've made. So I completely stopped sourdough until I could figure out some of my cheeses. And guess what? The yeast contamination stopped. I was able to make successful clabber with 0 yeast bubbles in it, and it made a difference. So I know that a lot of homesteaders make cheese and sourdough, so I'm going to figure it out. So I have my cheese doing pretty well. I set up a spot on the other side of my kitchen to drain my buckets and to drain my milk machine parts. And then I have you can't really see it, a stainless steel table set up that I put a little burner on, and I make my cheese over on a different side of the kitchen. And this is only my second week doing it, so we'll see how it works out. Okay, so I have my burner out and plugged in, making sure it's off. And it's so funny, guys, because it's not perfectly balanced. It tips, and I'm putting a big pot of cheese on it. So I folded up a little index card because we just make do. We just make do. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I have, this morning's milking came straight in and into the cheese pot. And now I have some extra gallons of milk that I'm going to add in with that to fill up the entire cheese pot. Okay, so, well, I spilled milk all over myself because these Azure standard lids are so hard to get off. Does anybody else have issues with that? I love the jars, I love the price, but I have a ton of these lids that are hard to take off. So I just had to hug the jar and make a mess of myself. The best part is I have some more jars coming with my next Azure order. I filled that sucker to the brim. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is going to be a long waiting period. So when you say that cheese takes 4 hours to make, it's not just 4 hours constantly. It's doing a step and waiting for an hour. So I am using my little burner to heat this very full pot. It's 4 gallons. It's 4 gallons of raw milk. And I'm going to heat it up to 102 degrees. This is the first cheese I have ever made that gets heated to 102 in the beginning. Usually when I come in from a milking, the milk is a perfect 88 to 90 degrees, which is exactly what most cheeses have to start at. And I always just think that's super cool. But anyway, my cow has leveled out to 2 gallons per milking. And so I want to make it worth my effort when I make cheese. So I went ahead and added 2 more gallons to my pot. So it's a full 4 gallons. And I'm going to slowly heat it up to 102 degrees. And after that, I'll add the culture. Another very important step in cheese making is to make sure that you sterilize everything. before you start working, because you don't want to introduce bad bacteria. You want the good bacteria to be able to thrive. So before I even went out to milk this morning, I used my electric kettle, and I poured boiling water all in my cheese pot and on all of my utensils. My spoon I'm going to use, my thermometer, and my knife I'm going to cut the curd with. Also this container, this old Tupperware pitcher that I use to put my utensils in so they stay clean while I'm making cheese. So I'm just going to check the temperature real quick. My clip. I had to make sure the little clip that clips on the side of the pan, it is so easy for it to get messy, and it's hard to clean if it has a chance to dry on there. So my advice is to immediately clean that. But I did the boiling water, and it was already clean, and then I did the boiling water. But this is my third attempt at getting a good thermometer, because the ones that are not digital are just so hard to read, and maybe after I get the hang of it, I won't need it to be so exact. I don't know, but it's hard to tell the exact temperature on the regular old thermometers. So like I said, usually when I come in from milking and pour my milk straight in the cheese pot, well, I filter it. I filter it into the cheese pot. It's about a perfect 88 degrees, and that's exactly what it needs to be, perfectly. But I had to add some refrigerator milk from yesterday's milking. So it's at 58 right now. And I need to take my time and slowly let this heat up to 102. You don't want to scorch it. You don't want to go too fast, because it's so easy to go over way too fast. And you don't want to go too hot, because you're going to kill all your natural good bacteria that's in your raw milk, and you don't want to do that. So it took almost an entire hour for these 4 gallons to reach 102 degrees. So I'm still trying to figure out my little burner and see how it does for cheese making. I used to use it for soap making, so I've not been making soap lately. So here we are. So it's at 102 degrees. Now, most of your cultures cannot get that, most of your cheeses do not have you get the cheese that hot. If you're new to cheese making, which I assume you are, because why else would you be at a rookie like myself's page looking? But there are mesophilic cultures and there are thermophilic cultures. Thermophilic can withstand higher heat. Still not very high, but they can withstand higher heat and cook temperatures than your mesophilic, which need to stay at a lower temperature well until you cook the curds, but that's for another day. Anyway, this is a cheese, Butterkase. Butter cheese, or Butterkase, is a, well, I've seen it done a few different ways, but I'm gonna follow my cheese making book today, and it only uses a thermophilic culture. I have seen other people do a combination of cultures, which I will try in the future, because it seems that they really enjoy that combination of cultures. But today, I'm just doing half a teaspoon of thermophilic culture, and I have a freeze-dried yogurt culture, because yogurt cultures are thermophilic. And you sprinkle it over the top of your pot, and then you just let it rehydrate before you stir it in, because it'll just sink to the bottom, and you need it to be evenly distributed. So again, it's 102 degrees. I'm gonna wait about 5 minutes, and I'm gonna stir that in. Okay, after waiting 5 minutes, you need yourself a nice long utensil of some sort. A lot of people use a curd spoon, and I have one hanging back there. I found that I don't like it very much. But anyway, for cheese making, you go up and down, an up and down motion, and you don't want to like slosh it around, and you don't want to create any air bubbles in your milk. So it's a very gentle up down motion. Sometimes I do a little waving side around, like paddling, but nothing that's going to introduce a bunch of air bubbles into your cheese pot. Anyway, about that curd spoon, I just didn't like washing it, and I like life to be easy. And I love this really long wooden spoon. It goes all the way down to the bottom of even my biggest pots up there. So I found it on Amazon, and it's worth it because I really love it. I love wooden utensils anyway. So But you're supposed to do this for about a minute. Make sure that your culture is evenly distributed, so your milk gets nice and cultured for you. So I'm going to put the lid on this, and I have 40 minutes to wait for it to culture. So in that 40 minutes, I can catch up on dishes, relax with a little coffee, and then get back to the next step. Okay, so my timer's gone off. It was 40 minutes. Timer's gone off, and it is time to add my rennet. I order from newenglandcheesemaking.com, and you're supposed to add 3/4 teaspoon of rennet, and you always dilute it. Don't just put your rennet directly into your cheese pot. So I dilute it in 1/4 cup of filtered water. I use my Berkey water. So 1/4 cup of filtered water, and then we'll do 3/4 teaspoon of this rennet. And we're going to do the same thing we did for the culture. Same thing. We're going to do the up-down motion, and then we're going to wait. So if you don't know, okay, you do your culture first, because that cultures your entire pot, and then that's your good bacteria. That's what the culture is. It's your good bacteria that you've added in. And now the rennet is what causes it to coagulate into a big curd. So I'll show you what that looks like when we get there. But for now, I'm gonna make sure I give that another stir, just in case I was talking too much and didn't stir it enough. Okay, so I'm just going to drizzle that over the top there. I'm gonna take my wooden spoon, and I'm gonna do that gentle up-down motion. Now, also, I don't think I said this, but it probably goes without saying if you've handled raw milk before. You probably want to give it a good stir before you do your culture, because your cream will try to rise to the top, and you want it all to be evenly distributed. Now, when I use my dexter milk, I don't find this happens, because the dexter milk doesn't separate as fast as Jersey milk. But with the Jersey milk, now I'm using all Jersey milk because my dexter I've dried up. But the Jersey milk separates so much faster that I have to make sure I stir it in. That's not good nor bad. I'm just making the comment that dexter milk has smaller fat globules that take longer to gather together, so they don't separate as fast. I find that now that I'm using all Jersey milk, I'm having to make sure my cream is mixed in to my milk. So anyway, I'll be waiting another 40 minutes after I get this nice and mixed in. And then the next step happens. So it's like you do something and then you wait a long time. When it comes to cooking the curd, sometimes that takes a while because you have to babysit it and stir it a lot. But for the beginning, you're a little free to do other stuff while you wait on these steps to happen. So that's what I'm gonna do. So there's something I wanted to share. As I put my lid on, my rennet is in there. I'm gonna wait 40 minutes for that to coagulate. But I did want to say, between the culture and the rennet, there is a step. If you are interested in making cheese and you don't have raw milk, you can add calcium chloride. So my cheese book and the recipes there's another gentleman, I can't remember his name. I'll try to find it and insert it. But he uses store-bought milk, and he adds the calcium chloride. So you would add that before you add your rennet and do the same thing, the up-down motion, if you're using pasteurized milk. Okay, pasteurized milk. If you're using raw milk, you don't need to use that because it has the natural goodness still in there that hasn't been pasteurized out. So that's not to say, though, if you're like, oh, it's so neat that the cheese making, and I would like to do it, but there's no way I'm going to get a milk cow. You can still teach yourself how to make cheese. It's fun and it's rewarding if you like that kind of thing. So I would encourage you to give it a try. And you can buy everything you need on newenglandcheesemaking.com. And I'm sure there's other, it's called cheesemaking.com. The company's New England Cheesemaking. Anyway. Cheesemaking.com, and that's where I've ordered a lot of my freeze-dried cultures, the rennet. You can get the calcium chloride, all of your cheese making supplies. And no, I'm not sponsored. It's just little old me saying this is where you can get the stuff, guys. So if you want to try cheese making, I encourage you to do it. Even if you don't have a cow, you can do this too, because if I can do it, you certainly can do it. So my timer has gone off. And I'm going to, I brought you guys in closer, so hopefully you can see, I can already tell by looking at it that it's probably set up nice. But what you're always told to do in all the cheese making recipes is you're checking for a clean break. So what that means is when you take your knife that you're cutting with, or people use their finger, but because I had yeast contaminated cheeses and everything, I have transitioned to using my wooden spoon for everything, or my knife here. So what I'm gonna do is I think you can see, I'm gonna try to bring you in closer. It's gonna get shaky, but okay. So you're looking for a clean break. So you just take the knife in and you pull up, and it's hard to see on the camera. I'm gonna try to show you guys, but you're looking to see if it's a little mushy. It's okay. It's okay. I feel like this could go for another 5 minutes. It could go for another 5 minutes. So, I'm going to go ahead and let it, I'm going to wait the 5 minutes, because here's what happens. If it's not completely ready to cut a nice curd, your whey is going to release too fast, and, your curds will be compromised. So I'm going to wait another 5 minutes, and then I'm going to go ahead and slice it up. Okay, so it's been another 5 minutes, and I feel good about what the curd looks like, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it. So the directions tell you that you need it to be like 1/2 inch curds or something like that, and some will say very specific measurements. Good luck getting your specific measurements, but I just go, oh, that is definitely good enough. Probably would have been okay without the extra 5 minutes, but I cut across one way, trying to go down to the bottom of the pot, and you want to be gentle because you do not want your curds to release too much of their whey too fast, especially because this is supposed to be a soft, creamy cheese. If your curds release too much of their whey too fast, you're gonna end up with a very dry cheese. And I know that because I have some Gouda that I pressed too firmly, and it ended up a little too dry. Still good, but a little too dry. So now I'm going the other way. So they're like long cylinder type cubes at this point. And then I'm going to go horizontally after this. And you just I just do my best to try to make them about the same size, because you want them to all be ready at the same time. So if you have a bunch of big chunks, and I just kind of go down at an angle this way, you know how to slice stuff, okay? Like dicing up an onion. You want them to be little cubes, okay? You don't want your curd cubes to be that small. And I keep waving this knife around, and I'm gonna get flagged by YouTube. But anyway, I am just trying to cut some curds, y'all. So you want to be fairly gentle with them, but this initial cutting, okay, I feel pretty good about that. I'm going to let them sit. So this step is called letting the curds, oh, for the love. It's called letting the curds heal. Okay, so you just let them heal over, and another 5 minutes. So this is when you don't have the big breaks to do what you want for as long, okay? Because in 5 minutes, I'm gonna come back and start stirring this up and making sure that the curds are, in fact, near the same size. So the next step for the Butterkase, listen, it's called butter cheese, but it's fun to say Butterkase, so that's what I'm going to call it, okay? Anyway, so the next step, I've let my curds heal, and you're supposed to stir the curds for 20 minutes. And I probably will do it for close to that. And this is how I set myself a timer. Alexa, set a 20-minute cheese timer.
Cheese timer, 20 minutes, starting now.
I'm so spoiled by that thing. Anyway, okay, so a lot of my curds are pretty large. So this is the part that just takes some getting to know how, okay? This is the part that takes practice. Keep in mind, I've never made Butterkase, butter cheese, Butterkase, okay? But I have made Gouda. And other than the fact that I'm using a different culture, this is very similar to the process. So I'm going to use my spoon. I'm gonna see if I can't find, listen, my hands are super clean. I've just been doing dishes. So though I don't use my hands as much anymore, I'm going to show you guys. But some of these curds are still very large. Can you see that? Can you tell? I'm shaking because I'm trying to. So you want them to be smaller. So I'm using the spoon to break them all that gentle. Okay, so, that's why it's there. But I am fishing around to the bottom with my spoon and gently, just gently cutting these curds. Now, people who know how to cut their curds right the first time probably don't have to do this, but I do. So I go around the pot. I'm gonna try to show you. So this is how big my curds are right now. Let me fix that light, it's a little harsh. Okay, so the curds are very mixed sizes right now, very much. Okay, I'm lowering the light so it's not, there we go. Okay, so the curds, some of them are very large still. So I probably will have to stir the entire 20 minutes because I need to get these curds about the same size. So I kind of push them up against the side and I use the edge of my spoon. You fish down on the bottom and you see that some of these curds are still very large. So I just kind of use this to cut them. So I'm going to stir them and, okay, there's another very large curd in the middle. You see they kind of just fall apart and you want that to happen as gentle as possible. So I'm going to continue to do this for about 20 minutes. I will show you what it looks like before I move on to the next step. But for now, I'm going to try and get these curds all the same size. So I again use my kettle, my electric kettle, guys, to sanitize my cheese molds and my cheesecloths that I'm about to use. I had to use this giant stainless steel pan because I found out that my bowl was being used, but I actually kind of like it, so it was a happy accident. So you want everything to be as sterilized as possible. Your cheesecloth, you don't want any soapy smell going on, and your molds, you need everything to be as clean as possible. Okay, so now I will continue on and get my curds washed. Okay, so I stirred my curds for 20 minutes and then you have to let the curds settle for a little while, probably about 10 minutes, okay? I believe that's how Gouda is. So that's how I'm gonna do my Butterkase, Butterkase, okay, butter cheese. I'm going to let the curds settle down to the bottom, and then what you do is you pour off. So all I have in here is curds in a way right now. So the curds have been stirred. Oh, I wanted to show you guys before I let them settle. I'll show you what they look like. Just in case you make this and you have a good idea. Okay, so they've already started to settle. Well, that's fine. Okay, so can you see that they're much smaller now? I'm trying to, okay. So they're much smaller. They've shrunken, okay? They're very soft still. They're very soft. But this is a very soft cheese, apparently. I've never had it before. But with Gouda, With Gouda, you actually wash the curd twice. You remove a portion of the whey, you add hot water to replace it so it keeps the temperature up. You stir them for a while, you let it settle, and then you remove whey again and add hot water, and then you stir the curds. So what happens is you're lowering the acidity of your curd, and that's what they call a washed curd cheese. Okay, so there's a few cheeses that are that way. As it turns out, Butterkase is that way, okay? But Butterkase only gets rinsed once. So, and the curds are still very soft, and I followed the directions exactly. So I think that is what contributes to the creamy cheese product at the end of your 1 month aging. Is you're very gentle with the curds, you only rinse them once, okay? So you're lowering the acidity, so it's gonna be that milder flavor, not as sharp as like a cheddar would be. But I will say, I opened some 4-month-old aged Gouda this week, and it was delicious. It had developed such a good flavor. I don't think that wheel of cheese is going to last very long. So anyway, I'm going to let these curds settle down, and I'm going to remove half of the whey, and I'm going to wash the curd. Hey guys, I just had to tell you a little something. Here's a little tip. If you get a milk cow and you want to get an exercise regimen, okay, store your milk fridge down in your basement, because as you haul 3 gallons at a time up those stairs, you get quite a workout, okay? So my cheese is almost done, ready to drain off the whey. So that means, guys, I need to turn the rest of my milk. I just hauled it up here super fast, okay? All right, so I'm going to turn the rest of my milk into butter, and I don't know, we'll see where the day takes us. We'll see how much energy I have. I might have just used it all up, okay? But definitely I'm gonna make butter, I'm gonna make coffee creamer for the week. I think I said in another video, like replacing the junk from the store. That's, you know, we just like to just pour one thing into our coffee and be done, not add the extra. I guess my husband, you know, he's getting up super early. He doesn't want to have to, he just wants the simplicity, okay? So I'm gonna make some creamer and butter. We'll see what else I make. I don't know. Back to the Butterkase. Okay, trying to video with a 4-gallon pot of milk. It's asking for trouble. Okay, so I'm going to dump out half of my whey. Yes, the whey can be used to make other things. That's not what I'm doing today. I don't have a use for it today. If we had pigs, I'd be feeding it to pigs. Yes, I soak lots of chicken feed in my leftover milk product, but here we are. Anyway, enough chatting before I spill this all over myself. Okay, so I'm going down until I see the top of these curds. You need to remove about half, it says, okay? That's not half. We're almost there. Oh no, lost the curd. I'm gonna call that half. And then I'm gonna turn on the hot water so we can replace it. And I will use my thermometer to make sure it's 140 degrees, like the recipe says. So, back to where we were. Okay, so I checked with my thermometer, and the water is a little over 130, but I don't feel like I removed enough to have it any hotter than that. I think that's fine. So I'm going to fill up half-gallon jar. I might have to do it twice. Of hot water to replace the whey, and then I'm going to stir it. It says for 10 minutes in the directions of my cheese making book. 10 minutes, I'm going to stir it up, wash the curd, and then we let it settle, and we don't repeat like Gouda. We're going to transfer it into some cheese molds. Okay, so my cheese recipe says that this should be at about 108 degrees. That's 108 degrees Fahrenheit. as you stir for 10 minutes. Now, mine's hovering around 103 to 104. So my water should have been a little hot, more hot that I added in there. I'm not gonna worry about it though. I feel pretty good about it. We'll see. Because like I said, most of the cheeses that I make are not this hot. So 104 degrees, it's a 4 degrees difference. I might regret it later, but I doubt it. I think it'll be just fine. I think it's gonna be creamy, delicious cheese because these curds are really soft, and I'm really excited to see how it turns out. So I'm gonna keep stirring for 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna let the curds settle for 10 minutes, and I think I'll bring you along after that. Guys, I have now used my kettle. I think I filled it 4 different times. I might have to invest in a larger one if I'm gonna keep doing this. But anyway, I'm about to drain my curds that have settled to the bottom over there. So I am sterilizing everything they're about to touch. This is another pot that I have, another big stock pot. So I say sterilizing, but you get the idea, okay? I'm scalding them, trying to kill all the germs. All right, so yes, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do this to make sure that my cheesecloth is heated up still. I have already put boiling water on everything that's over here, but I just wanna make sure that my cheesecloth is, warmed up still. So my curds will knit together as they should. So now I'm going to dump out all that water because I'm about to add whey in there. Okay, so I've never had this happen before. I have so many leftover curds. I think it's because it's such a soft curd cheese, and they didn't cook for as long, so it's going to be soft. So I have leftover. So what we're going to do with this, I'm lightly pressing these curds together, just lightly, and then I'm going to let them rest in this strainer for a while, and then I'm going to slice them up, salt them, and snack on them. So this current step, I have my cheese in the press. I'm light pressing it because it's such a soft curd. I want to be gentle. So you saw how it was mounded up. I usually don't mound up quite that much, but because these are such soft curds, and I want big wheels, I want to fill this up. So in a half hour, I'm going to flip these and repeat the process. I'm probably going to flip it twice. The directions say to flip it one time and then leave it for 12 hours. I'm going to flip it a second time before I leave it overnight because I just get a better shaped cheese if I flip it a second time. Probably because I'm pretty new at this, but my cutting board, which I will give a little tour of some other time, does help me compared to the one I used to use. So I'll show you what it looks like when I go to flip it. Okay, so as I'm waiting for the time to flip the cheese, I wanted to give this little tip. So I have this homemade cheese press. I don't have the fancy weighted with the springs. I'm sure the springs are not that expensive. But what I do instead is I check on it every 5 or 10 minutes or so, and I see that it's loosened up because the whey has released down into this tray. So as it releases, I just tighten down my knobs, not super tight, just about the same pressure that it had before, but to keep consistent pressure. And I found that works really well because what I started out with is cheese that had a bunch of gaps in it, which was delicious cheese still, but the curds hadn't knit together because they weren't pressed quite tight enough. It's really an art of finding out the enough pressure, but not too much. So that was my tip for using your homemade cheese press. Okay, so I lost a few steps of the process here, and this is a really long video. So all I was showing here is that I had flipped it and the curds were starting to knit together. But I flipped it a couple of times and had to be very careful because it's such a soft curd. But it knit back together, and I'm excited to see how it goes. And so I'm including a couple of pictures here of the cheese going into the salt brine. The salt brine is 1 part salt to 5 parts water. And so it goes in there for 12 hours. It needs to be in the brine for 12 hours. You flip it. That's, I think, the hours I had mixed up because it does not stay in the press, but for longer than 6 hours, which is pretty cool. So 6 hours in the press, 6 to 12 hours in brine. And then you need to air dry it. It needs to be air dried for a day or two. Everything you read will say it needs to be drier than a clammy handshake. It's a really weird description, but I think you'll know what it means. You'll know when it's dry enough. And after you get it dry enough, you can choose however you're going to encase it. The directions in my cheese book say to use wax. I haven't tried wax yet. I just use my vacuum sealer. So you'll see that I have my cheese labeled after I vacuum sealed it. And then I have moved it into my aging refrigerator. So there it's going to sit for a little over a month, and then I'm going to give it a try. I do plan to make a few more batches of this and use different cultures. In fact, I already made 1 batch since this, and I used a combination of thermophilic culture and mesophilic culture because some directions say to do that. So I'm really excited to see if there's any difference at all. So far, the cheese looks about the same, so we'll see. But I'll get back with you and maybe I'll have a taste test video comparing the different cultures, and I'll let you know which one I like better or if there's any difference at all. But anyway, thanks for joining me in this really long video on how to make cheese. I hope you feel encouraged to make some cheese and that you see it's not too complicated and anybody could technically do it. You just have to have the right setup. And again, you can do this with pasteurized milk as well. You just need to purchase calcium chloride and include that between your culture and your rennet step. And you could try to practice making cheese in your own kitchen. So I hope you feel encouraged and I hope you have a blessed week.